Welcome to a deep dive, into the first chapter of my book, Objections Overruled. This chapter really sets the stage for tackling common objections to the Christian faith, and we're starting with arguments for the existence of God, even outside a purely biblical context. You see, in my 20 years working in apologetics, I've noticed two really important things. First, people really do want to talk about God, even though there's this push to keep faith private. And second, almost 90% of the objections I hear are rooted in morality. It's as if people are searching for a God who is truly involved in our world and the struggles we face. I saw this firsthand while working with some skeptical Muslim colleagues. They would often question my faith, but were also incredibly curious about the way I lived my life. They saw a peace and joy that went beyond the circumstances and that intrigued them. This, I believe, is the power of a life lived authentically. It transcends words and becomes a living testament to the truth we hold dear. We'll begin with a cosmological argument. Since everything finite must be caused by something else other than itself, since the universe is an effect and not a cause in itself, it requires a primary cause for its coming into being. It also needs a final cause to continue existing. This argument basically states that the universe, as an effect, must have a clause, a first mover or unclaused cause. Think of it like a chain reaction. Next, we have the axiological argument. This argument focuses on the inherent sense of objective morality we all seem to possess. Everyone is aware of an objective moral law. Any moral law implies a lawmaker, therefore there must be a supreme lawgiver. We all have this understanding that certain actions are right and others are wrong, regardless of culture or personal beliefs. If a law exists, there must be a lawmaker, right? The axiological argument points to a supreme lawgiver, a source of these universal moral principles to transcend individual preferences. It's like an underlying code of right and wrong that leads the bibliographies. Let me share a personal experience that really brought this home. I visited the Rwandan Genocide Museum a while back, and I learned something truly chilling. During that horrific event, if you were alive, chances were you were a perpetrator. This stark reality, the human capacity for such immense evil, forced me to confront the darkness within ourselves. It made me question the sufficiency of a worldview that attributes everything to random chance. Could a purely materialistic explanation truly account for such profound evil? Or does it point to something deeper? A need to grapple with the concepts of good and evil, and the possibility of a force beyond our immediate understanding. Imagine a world where God constantly intervened to prevent every instance of pain, every accident, every heartbreak. What kind of world would that be? It would be a world without free will, where our choices had no real consequences. Could we genuinely love if we weren't free to choose love? Could we experience true joy if sorrow was never a possibility? The ability to choose, to experience the full spectrum of human emotions is what makes us truly human. And it's this very freedom that allows for the possibility of both great love and great evil. So how does a loving God allow suffering to exist? Well, God doesn't simply sit back and watch us struggle. He's actively involved in our world, working through circumstances, guiding our steps, and ultimately using even suffering to shape us into the people he created us to be. He reminds us that he has a plan to ultimately vanquish evil. This plan was first revealed in the Garden of Eden, where God promised a Redeemer would conquer sin and death. And this promise was fulfilled on the cross, where Jesus, the Son of God, willingly took upon himself the weight of the world's suffering, offering forgiveness and hope to all who would believe. While the problem of evil remains a mystery in many ways, it doesn't negate God's existence or his love for us. In fact, it's often in the midst of suffering that we experience God's presence most powerfully. We see his love in the compassion of strangers, his grace in the midst of our pain, and his hope in the promise of a future where evil will be no more.